Happy greetings to everybody. Namaste. We are happy to welcome all our brothers and sisters, our new seekers, to this Heartfulness community channel through which we're all together trying to understand the teachings of the great elders of the Heartfulness method, the great masters of the Heartfulness method. Studying together, understanding together, journeying together, holding hands, moving towards the destination. For revered Daji's call is it is unity that is important. So, through this channel, we are trying to learn together. If I deeply look into myself, I know nothing. But by the grace of the Master, we are trying to motivate all our brothers and sisters to take the part of the practice seriously. For a long time, we just, especially coming from the Indian background, somehow this humbleness is there to accept the help of the guide, the Guru, which is difficult in the Western societies where we live. But we have depended so much on the help of the gurus that we forgot that we have to do something about it. We have to practice. Only when we practice will the help of the guide become fruitful in this journey. So that is why the call of the masters was you have to have an Eastern heart and a Western mind. Western mind likes to do everything independently. They believe in themselves. They have difficulty in the concept of surrender, accepting the help of a guide, a mentor, a guru. Whereas Eastern heart easily accepts the help of a guide, a mentor, a guru, surrenders easily, but forgets this concept of believing in their own efforts. Even science calls self-directed neuroplasticity. What is this self-directed neuroplasticity? It is trying to train our thinking by diverting our thought onto ourselves, visualizing the best version of ourselves. So the brain absorbs that, and that is called self directed neuroplasticity, which is nothing but sankalpa. Sankalpa, intention in the field of point A, is what it is, which can transform the human beings, which can transform all of us. So, that is the purpose of this meeting together, all of us trying to learn. Last week, we understood this concept of Chitta Vritti Nirodha. We understood Chitta is not just the mind, it is thought, mind, heart, and consciousness together. And when all this together does not give attention to the vrittis, the tendencies, the wheel of tendencies drops off, the wheel of karma drops off, and thereby we arrive at this state of a choiceless awareness. And today we will understand how Abhyasa Vairagya. Abhyasa is sadhana, Vairagya is discriminating, Viveka, discernment, pure seeing. How practice along with this pure seeing, it leads to this pure seeing, can help with this mind arriving at this state of choiceless awareness. So, together, let us learn together, understand together. So, the way to Vritti Nirodha is Abhyasa Vairagya, leading to Chitta Vritti Nirodha. Abhyasa Vairagyabhyam Tat Nirodha. This is from Sutra 1, which is Samadhipada, 12th Sutra. The slowing down and eventually stopping of vrittis, the tendencies, becomes possible through abhyasa, practice, and vairagya, detachment with discrimination. These are the two core foundation principles, practice and non attachment, viragya, are the two core principles on which the entire system of yoga rests. It is through the cultivation of these two that the other practices evolve, by which mastery over the mind field occurs and allows this realization of the true self. So we can only master the mind through practice and non attachment, and also known as pure discrimination. Balancing these two companions, they're called companions, they have to go together. Practice and vairagya, abhyasa and vairagya, is a key to the spiritual life, allowing one to pursue the subtler meditation practices. So once this is arrived, the mind is coming to true meditative state, dhyanaja chitta, meditative mind. The mind, by practice and discrimination, arrives at the state of meditative mind, dhyanaja chitta. Abhyasa means having an attitude of persistent effort to attain and maintain a stable tranquility. So it's persistent efforts is what leads. And what is persistence? Persistence is devotion. And devotion with persistence is true will. When we talk about willpower, it is because of this intense devotion for the goal, you make persistent efforts, and that becomes your own willpower. So, to become well established, this needs to be done for a long time without a break. So, we have to meditate persistently without giving up day after day, whether you feel good or not, whether you find anything in it or not. And that is what training is. Abhyasa, practice, involves cultivating a strong conviction, a persistent effort to consistently choose practices with actions, speech, and thoughts that lead in the direction of stable tranquility. So it is an inner conviction that leads to persistent efforts where our actions are pure, our speech is pure, our thoughts are pure, and that will lead us to the tranquility, that meditative state. Vairagya. The essential companion is non attachment. Vairagya involves learning to actively and systematically encounter, explore, and learning to let go of the many attachments. So, Vairagya is to learn to let go, which we practice every day in meditation. The beautiful prescription given by our great masters of the Sahaj Marg tradition is ignore your thoughts. Because it is through thought we are getting attached. If you learn to ignore the thought, this attachment automatically happens. So, Vairagya involves learning to actively and systematically encounter, explore, and learning to let go of the many attachments, aversions, fears, and false identities that are clouding the true self. So, Abhyasa means never give up, Vairagya means always let go. So, Abhyasa and Vairagya, practice and this detachment, they work together. They are companions. So, we have to remember that word. Practice leads you in the right direction, while non attachment allows you to continue the inner journey without getting sidetracked into the pains and the pleasures along the way. It is this attitude of non attachment. Otherwise, we get sidetracked. Our senses get pulled outward. This vairagya is when senses are drawn inward. And this is what we are trying to do in the meditation. Revered Babuji Maharaj emphasizes on persistence in the practice. If anybody reads this book, Whispers from the Brighter World, every whisper, thousands and thousands of messages. And two things he completely talks about: persistence, love. Persistence, love. A spiritual way like ours, which releases man from his impressions, samskaras, refines his spiritual personality. Look at Babaji's bold statement. He's saying, my heartfulness method will release you from the wheel of karma, impressions, and refines your spiritual personality. It is more difficult to change his character and his long acquired practices, which become second nature. The way we think makes our character. And we have learned certain practices. We have learned to be jealous. We have learned to be hateful. We have learned to be critical of other people, judging other people. All this has become a second nature, and we are doing those mistakes automatically. But the heartfulness method of cleansing and purification releases us and refines our spiritual personality. And some sense of discipline should regulate his life. That is where Abhyasa is. Abhyasa is about discipline, regularity, doing it with persistence without giving up. So, some sense of discipline should regulate his life within the framework of well understood sadhana. So, you must understand what your practice is doing for you. And that is what this self study group is all about. Engaging in a spiritual way is to give it its due place, meaning the most important one. So whatever we do, we enjoy life, we enjoy our work, we enjoy our children, family, but you have to give importance to this inner transformation, your spiritual sadhana. Without regularity and perseverance, it will be more difficult for you to advance efficiently. The importance you attach to this process is decisive, because as we move into the higher dimensions, our frequency has to be fine tuned, and our capacity to absorb divinity has to increase. And by meditating, we are actually strengthening our nervous system, so we are able to withstand that power. It's like if I only have 100 volts, if I plug in into 220, I snap, I lose my connection, I break up, I break apart, I fall apart. So, meditation increases your capacity and becoming the great whole and the divine energy which you appeal in your practice. So, in the morning, when we are offering our prayer, we are appealing to the great source, the great whole, for it to allow its vibration, the prana, to flow into us. So, Babaji says the divine energy which you appeal to in your practice regularly. Practice requires regularity. That flow requires regularity in our practice for it to increase. So the big river begins as a stream and then becomes a river and ends up in an ocean. The great whole, the ultimate goal of its journey. Tatra shithau yatna abhyasa. The energetic interest. That means this persistent, this interest, devotion with will and persistence. The energetic interest in attempt to remain in the standstill, that silence of the heart, Nirodha, is called Abhyasa. So when you are able to take interest in meditation and arrive at this state of stillness, silence, that is Abhyasa. And Abhyasa plus Vairagya leads to Nirodha. That means it will let go of the impressions, the wheel falls off. There are two directions that one can go in life, as well as individual actions, speech, or thoughts. These are the three things that we need to watch: our thoughts, our speech, our actions. One direction is towards truth, reality, self, or spiritual realization. The other direction is opposite and involves those lifestyles, actions, speech, and thoughts that take one away from higher experiences. What are those that take us away from the higher experiences? When we try to lie, when we try to hurt other people, you're trying to talk like you, putting other people down because of your own ego and your lack of self confidence. All this is how we express ourselves. But when we look at the master Revered Daji, the way he speaks, it is touching, it is soft. Even sternness is very soft. He's correcting you, but it is very soft. Abhyasa. Abhyasa means cultivating the lifestyle. So, what the sage is giving here is giving the real description of what Abhyasa is, what real practice is, what real sadhana is. So, practice means cultivating a lifestyle of action, speech, thoughts, as well as spiritual practices that lead into the positive direction. Practice and detachment are companion practices and are the means of mastering the many levels of mind as to experience the true self. So, the mind, with these two things, with practice and detachment, is able to experience different levels of the truth at each chakra. So its mind is experiencing balance at point one, is experiencing peace at point two, is experiencing emotional stability at point three, the mind is experiencing courage at point four, and mind is experiencing clarity, pure seeing at point five, which enables it to cross the Pinda Pradesh, which is the heart region, the human region, and now mind enters into the Brahmanda Mandal. So, Vairagya is the practice of gradually letting go of the mental colorings that lead one away from spiritual rather than going in the opposite direction, giving into the attachments and aversions. So, discrimination is the key to be able to do the practices and cultivate non attachment. It is necessary to become better and better at discriminating between what action, speech, and thoughts take you in the right direction and those which are diversion. This discrimination is both a foundation practice and also the subtler tool of the inner journey. So, this ability of pure seeing discrimination, which is known as viveka, discrimination, discernment, it is a fine product of regular meditation. The more we meditate, the more your mind arrives at this state of viveka. Sahatu dirgha kala nairantairya satkara asevitaha drida bhumika. Persistence in the practice, abhyasa, regardless of the passage of time, without interruption, and with an attitude of reverence, results in a firm foundation of yoga. So we have to remember this word reverence. So when we are meditating, that is the reason at the end we make this intention. I'm absorbed in this light with utmost reverence. You're suggesting to yourself neuroplasticity, self directed neuroplasticity, sankalpa, that with utmost reverence, I am dipping my mind in this sacred light. Drishta, Anushravika, Vishaya, Vitrishanyasya, Vishikara, Sangnya, Vairagyam. Loss of craving for all that has been experienced in the past and for all that has been heard in the past results in vairagya. That means when we let go of the past, that leads to vairagya. So don't hold on to this. Oh, that person said this in the past 10 years ago, 20 years ago. They did this to me. We have to let go of everything, which is also termed as vasikara. This vairagya is also termed as vasikara. So identification with the vrittis is entanglement. Vrittis is what? Tendencies. Oh, I am so great. I am powerful. Oh, I am so bad in the negative direction. So we are attaching our mind, identifying ourselves with the vrittis. We need to identify ourselves with the pure divinity, the soul. So vrittis become painful as a result of one's identification with them. Identification is entanglement with the vrittis. I am so great. I am a doctor. I'm an engineer, I'm a PhD, I am rich, I'm educated, I know everything. So, how did the sages advise us to come away from that state of identification? Humility, love, gratitude, surrender. Non identification results in disentanglement. Opting for not choosing results in non identification. That is why this letting go process will allow us to come to this non identification. When choosing ceases, momentum of vrittis slow down. This is what we understood last week. Vrittis, the tendencies are like a wheel. When the mind gives it its support, the wheel keeps moving. But when the mind lets go and moves back into the field of consciousness and there to the field of the soul, the divinity, then this wheel falls apart. Vrittis slow down results in disentanglement. Ceasing to choose makes one a seer. So this is what this choiceless awareness. So at point 3, the fire point, we let go of opinions, power of opinion, we let go. At point 4, we let go of power of choice making. That results to surrender. That is the beginning of surrender. So when you are a seer, vrittis are just appearing and disappearing. For some time, this appearance and disappearance continues in the sadhana. You keep seeing this. It is not that one moment you are just gone and everything is. You try, you make efforts, and you arrive finally at standstill state. And this energetic interest in this standstill state is abhyasa, sadhana. This enthusiasm, this devoted persistence, will to be in that state of silence, to maintain that state of silence, that is sadhana. So persistence is abhyasa, sadhana, and practice. Purushakyati, that is pure seeing awareness. So, what is awareness? Consciousness is awareness. And what is awareness is paying attention. And paying attention is being present and nothing. It's being present. And that is what Babuji Maharaj calls here and now. So, this pure seeing awareness is in this here and now. You are in that state of ultimate viveka. The extraordinary perception is total disentanglement of the seer from the entire phenomenal world. How does it happen? By withdrawing the senses into the consciousness field and then move further inside. This is pure seeing, and this pure seeing is an energy, and this pure seeing energy is called Purusha. That is man in his existential authenticity, in his own pure state of being. It is this perception which is called Purusha Kyati, that is pure seeing. Kyati means darshana, seeing awareness. And this pure seeing state is known as the seer. That is, we understood seer and the seen. If the eyes are seeing and everything else is the seen. But when you don't look with the eyes, because you could see something as a snake or as a rope because of the colored vision. And the moment we move into the mind field, we are able to see it little better. But when we move into the consciousness field, our seeing is becoming purer and purer. And then when you move in even beyond, then you are in that state of pure seeing where you are aware it is as it is him alone, and everything out or in is all this ultimate presence. So man is cosmic evolution becoming aware of itself, and this awareness is pure seeing. Tatah pratyak chetana adigamaha api antaraya abhavascha. Thereby comes about an inner understanding and the negation of all the impediments to divine awareness and the state of absolute balance, which is samadhi. So, Sutra 29 states this aid to maintaining constant awareness of the divine brings understanding and negates all the mind made impediments. This mind makes lot of diversions. So, Sutra 29 states this aid to maintaining constant awareness of the divine brings understanding and negates all mind made impediments to the state of Chitta Vritti Nirodha and the consequent state of choiceless awareness, which is Samadhi. So, how do we maintain the mind in this awareness? What did our masters call it? They called it as remembrance, constant remembrance. That is, meditating with this idea that I'm absorbed in the ultimate source, the Brahman, and everything around me is also absorbed in that. And that helps us to maintain. There are seven alternative ways to Chitta Vritti Nirodha. And the way to Abhyasa Vairagya, practice and detachment, is given to arrive at the state of Chitta Vritti Nirodha, which is where the mind is in that choiceless awareness. And the way is through faith. This group of sutras are about reverential godly awareness, that is Ishvara Pranidhana. So, how will you have this reverence and feel this presence of the divine when there is a level of wonder and there is a level of worship? And that is what leads to that divine awareness. And the level of wonder and level of worship cannot be separated. So, these sutras are intended to bring man to intense awareness of something of a very special quality that vibrates within him, which is the pure consciousness, which is vaguely named as divine, God, whatever you want to. Because the ultimate is undefinable. Passionate interest is the key, says Sutra 39. Passionate interest is essential because without it, there can be no real basis for serious exploration into existential nature of man's relationship with man and the objective world. So you have to have this intense interest. And it states that man who cannot bring himself to take a passionate interest in the real object is less than human. So until and unless we have this intense longing and passion for the divine, we do not, we can't even arrive at this pure human state. And in this process, we pay attention to both spiritual and material worlds. This is what the beauty of the heartfulness method is, that they want us to pay attention to both. What is it that brings man's mind to a meaningful relationship with the objective world? When you are longing for that divinity, then you perceive in that pure seeing that even the external objective world is also divine. So you go through this external world also with reverence. So this inner passionate interest for divinity is what creates this passionate interest of observing divine in the external world. So the answer is man's passionate interest in the objective world or vastu. The sutra suggests that there are two ways of bringing the mind to that steady state in which alone perception of what is within and without in its existential authenticity is possible. So, this inner perception of divine is inside and divine is outside. And that happens by opting freely, effortlessly, for not choosing, which leads to Abhyasa and Vairagya. So, we are not really detaching ourselves from the external world. It is only we are attaching ourselves to the divinity that leads automatically to a state where you enjoy the children, you enjoy the husband, you accept the life that you have, as well as you are aware that divinity is pervading in everybody and in everything and inside you. So, meditation on any kind of passionate interest in any object to the exclusion of all fragmentary. That is meditating on the Guru also. विषयावती व प्रवृत्ति उत्पन्न मनसा स्थिति निबंधनी. Meditation on interest with an object. In the spiritual practice, when the form of the Guru appears naturally, we are advised that you meditate on the form, because that will help us to move, but we are not attached to the form. We are connecting ourselves to the essence of that form, because form keeps changing. Meditation on the arising of an intensified interest in association with any object holds the mind in a steady state. So, Sage Patanjali is saying, how can you keep your mind steady? if you meditate on a perfect master's form. You don't choose anybody and everybody. Then you can be misled. So that is why they, in the heartfulness way, when the heart recognizes the guru, the true guru, and if his face naturally appears, not because you are forcing it upon you, and then when you are able to meditate on that form, your mind can come to the steadiness very quickly. The inner concentration on the process of sensory experiencing, done in a way that leads towards higher subtle sense perception. This also leads to stability and tranquility of the mind. So, when we are able to be sensitive, as with the meditation practice, when the senses are refined and we are able to perceive the presence with the help of the senses, the mind comes to tranquility. This practice is on becoming aware of the inner process of sensation. So, you are observing. In Daji's words, it's AEIOU, acquiring the condition, enlivening the condition, imbibing the condition, becoming one with the condition, become union with the condition. How can we do all this? With the senses, the inner senses. You're not trying to literally um, see, but you are feeling. So this practice is on becoming aware of the inner process of sensation using the five cognitive senses, the indriyas of smelling, tasting, seeing, touching, and hearing. It does not mean pursuing the object that you are experiencing, such as the sound you are hearing or the image you are seeing. Rather, it means trying to become aware of sensing itself. Initially, the sensing is at a more surface or grosser level. Ultimately, the intent of the practice is to witness the higher or subtler inner senses. And that is when our senses are refined, we are able to feel the presence of the Master. And that is why, in the heartfulness method, Mother Helene, who wrote the Whispers, her sensory perception was so high, she was able to perceive Babaji's presence. Kshinna Vritti Abhijatasya Iva Mane Grahitri Grahana Grahayeshu Tat Anjanata Sampattihi. With the ending of the moment of choice making tendency, the steady mind becomes stainless and pure like a crystal, reflecting the interaction between the receiver and the received, which takes place through the senses. And this quality of sensitive reflectivity is called sampatti. For this, our Babu Daji gave us a beautiful example where the lake is still, the lake is pure, and the reflection that falls, you cannot tell whether it is the reflection or reality. And that state of sensitivity is called sampatti. When the sampattihi, when the modifications of mind have become weakened, the mind becomes like a transparent crystal and thus can easily take on the qualities of whatever object observed. So, in this process, it is not now just a reflection, but on which it is reflecting, on whatever you are meditating, this transparent, because of this transparent state that you have arrived because of right meditation, you are able to absorb the qualities of what you are meditating upon. You are meditating upon the inner presence of the divine master. You are absorbing the qualities of the divine master. You are absorbing the qualities of the divinity itself. And that is what sampatti is. When the modifications of the mind have become weakened, the mind becomes like a transparent crystal and thus can easily take on the qualities of whatever object observed. Because in meditation, that's what we're doing. We're observing the presence of the divinity through the inner master. Whether the object be the observer, the means of observing, or object observed, in a process of engrossment called sampatti, clarity and pure perception of the mind. When the mind is clouded, it cannot clearly see the objects in the field of mind or the objects of the world. It cannot see divine or it cannot see things clearly outside. It is like a clouded crystal or a stone that is of solid coloring. As the mind becomes clearer and clearer through meditational practices of yoga, that mind becomes like a transparent crystal. A transparent crystal will take on the coloring of any object it comes near. So if you are near the divine master, you absorb him. When such a clear mind focuses on an object presence of the master in the mind field, it becomes totally absorbed in that object, allowing you to see the nature of that object very clearly. You systematically explore, encounter, examine, and gradually set aside with non attachment the many false identities, attractions, aversions, or fears. And this introspection is done not only at the grosser levels of mind, but also at the subtler, which is the storehouse of the deep impressions, samskaras of the that drive the karma. That transparent crystal like mind can eventually transcend absorption of all the objects of the mind, leaving behind even the levels of samadhi on objects. And the mind now turns inward and surrenders itself into the direct experience of that which is beyond the mind. So now we are going beyond the mind to the consciousness and even beyond. So the journey of this sutra from sadhana samadhipada 2 to samadhipada 40 is about Chitta Vritti Nirodha. We begin with Chitta Vritti Nirodha in Sutra 2, and at Sutra 4 we come to Vritti Sarupya, where the ideational choice making movement of the mind generating conditional consciousness. Because of this choice making movement, your consciousness is constricted, conditioned, it is not able to expand freely. And man coming to awareness that the root of all this senseless drifting lies in this choice making tendency. And that is when we learn to let go, surrender, and that will help us expand our consciousness. So, at Sutra 4, we come to Vritti Sarupya, where the ideational choice making movement of the mind generating conditional consciousness, and man coming to awareness that the root of all senseless drifting lies the choice making tendency which enslaves him. So he opts for choiceless awareness and lands in the discipline of yoga. This choiceless awareness helps the vrittis, the tendencies to drop off. This energetic interest in this state is called practice abhyasa. And this clear perception brings the state of vairagya, discrimination, detachment. Vairagya negates the obsessive influence of words and experiences and brings the mind to a crystal clear state with an inherent power of penetrating into the innermost recesses of the man and the objective world, extending up to the boundless skies on the other side. And it is about the mind in the state of vairagya. So, this is the brief idea of understanding how sadhana is so important and how the great masters have made it so simple. Sadhana usually is very difficult because the mind is not able to come into this inner silent state with the help of the pranahuti, the vibration from the source emanating from the consciousness of the living guide. The mind is diverted towards this inner stillness and very easily is able to come towards this state of vairagya, discrimination, which helps a human being to become a divine being whose mind is so strong and he's able to travel in the higher regions. So let us now all meditate. Close your eyes softly. Take few deep breaths and center yourself. Come into your heart. Feel your heart. Enter your sacred space. Bring yourself to a state of humbleness in prayer. Consciously feel this state of humbleness, prayerfulness pervade into every cell of your being, where the heart beats. Make the intention. The source of light is present within you. The light from the source is illuminating your entire being. Your mind is drawn to this light. Your mind is resting in the light. The ocean of light, the ocean of love is in you. You are a drop submerged in this ocean. Rest in the light with utmost reverence. Let's meditate. That's all. Feel the calmness spread throughout your being. From this place of calmness, make the intention. All my senses are in a state of balance. They have arrived at their original character. All my feelings are in silence. All the chakras in my system are in a state of balance. They are in harmony with each other. Every cell in my being is imbued with the feeling of love and gratitude. Every cell in my being is absorbing the silence. Feel the calmness spread throughout your being. You may open your eyes when you are ready. Thank you all for joining the meditation today. We will see you all later. Have a beautiful day. Thank you for joining the Heartfulness Community channel.